Two people are standing in the same checkout line. Both glance at the price before it goes in the cart. Both drive cars with a little rust on them. Both rent apartments too small for what they actually need. Both hesitate over a $20 impulse buy. Watch them for 5 minutes, and you'd swear they were the same person. Broke, careful, unremarkable. Here's what you can't see. 5 years from now, one of them is still in that line, still doing the math in their head, still wondering why nothing ever loosens up. The other one is a millionaire, not from a lottery ticket, not from a secret stock tip, not from working 20-hour days until their body gave out. The split happened before either of them had money to speak of. It happened in a decision so small neither of them noticed making it. We like to believe wealth arrives the day the bank account hits 7 figures. It's a comforting story because it means the future is still just sitting out there, waiting for the right lucky break. One promotion, one deal, one idea. History disagrees. Long before the fortune is visible, the pattern is already running. Long before the house appears, the habit that paid for it is already in motion. And long before someone becomes free, they've already stopped behaving like the people around them. Nobody claps for that part. We watch someone succeed and say they changed. What if it's backwards? What if the change happened years earlier, quietly, while nobody was filming it? When they stopped buying approval, stopped performing for an audience, stopped letting emotions sign the checks. The money was just the last thing to show up. And that's the uncomfortable flip side. If wealth starts long before money does, poverty can keep going long after the money arrives. You've seen it. 6-figure salaries, living check to check. Athletes with career earnings in the tens of millions, broke within 5 years of retirement. Lottery winners back in debt inside a decade. Founders with impressive revenue quietly drowning. Money wasn't the missing ingredient. Behavior was. And behavior always answers to identity first. Most people ask, how do I become a millionaire? Wrong question. It sends you hunting for a shortcut. The better question is uglier and more useful. What kind of person keeps getting richer, on repeat, without trying to? Machiavelli spent his career studying something adjacent to this. Not money, but power. And specifically why some rulers held on to it for decades while others lost everything they'd won within a single season. His answer, laid out across the prince, was that durable power isn't the result of one good campaign. It's the result of virtue, a ruler's own discipline, foresight, and capacity to act, built up so consistently that winning stops being an accident and starts being a pattern. Wealth runs on the same engine. A lucky trade can make you rich once. Only who you've become can keep you that way. Have you noticed how some people survive financial disasters over and over, and somehow end up wealthy again anyway? A business that collapsed, a recession that gutted their savings, a bad bet that should have ended them, and 5 years later, back on their feet, further ahead than before. Meanwhile, someone else gets a raise, a bonus, an inheritance, and within a couple of years it's simply gone. Money doesn't just hand you opportunity, it hands you a mirror. Give discipline more resources, and discipline builds a life. Give impulse more resources, and impulse builds a bigger mess. Which means the real skill was never how to make money. It's how to become someone money finds difficult to leave. Picture a bucket with a dozen pinholes in the bottom. Most people respond by looking for a bigger hose, a raise, a better job, a side hustle. Nobody stops to check the holes, so every raise just leaks out a little faster than the last one did. The wealthy check the holes first, and that's where the first rule begins. It has almost nothing to do with money. We live in the easiest era in history to look rich. A financed car, clothes on a credit line, a vacation you'll finish paying off around the time you start planning the next one. Social media made the appearance of wealth cheap. Actual wealth stayed expensive, which is how so many people end up starring in a movie about their own success, without noticing they never got the part. Every purchase becomes a scene, every upgrade, another take, every photo quietly asking the same question, do I look like I made it yet? Performances are expensive. Real wealth, by contrast, prefers to stay off camera. Take 2 employees. Same company, same promotion, same raise. The first upgrades everything within a month. Bigger apartment, newer car, dinners that used to be for special occasions. Friends notice. Friends say things like, "Look at you." The second changes almost nothing you can see. The extra income disappears every month. Not spent, redirected. Some into investments. Some into an emergency fund that used to not exist. Some into a skill that will be worth more in 3 years than it costs today. From the outside, one of them looks like they made it. The other looks exactly the same. 5 years later, their lives don't resemble each other at all. One is carrying an impressive list of monthly payments. The other is carrying options. One invested in appearance. The other invested in leverage. Here's the part that stings. Society claps for the wrong one first. We notice spending. We almost never notice ownership. Nobody congratulates you for paying off a credit card. Nobody touches you for buying another index fund. Nobody admires the purchase you quietly didn't make. Consumption is loud. Freedom is silent. Machiavelli argued that a prince who wants to keep his position should avoid actions that provoke envy or contempt, that unnecessary displays of wealth or extravagance actually make a ruler more vulnerable, not more respected, because they invite resentment without buying real loyalty. Extend that logic to a personal balance sheet, and it lands somewhere interesting. The flashier the display, the more exposed the position underneath it. The future millionaire tends to look ordinary for longer than feels comfortable. Not because they lack ambition, because they're busy pouring the foundation while everyone else is hanging curtains in a building that isn't finished yet. Here's the trap hiding inside all of this. Once your identity depends on looking successful, you stop making financial decisions and start protecting an image. You don't buy the watch anymore. The watch starts wearing you. That's dependence, and dependence is freedom's quiet opposite. The goal was never admiration. It was optionality, the ability to walk away, to wait, to say no, to negotiate without the desperation showing on your face. Those freedoms get purchased years before the luxury ever does. So the first rule feels almost unfair. The people most likely to end up rich often spend years looking financially unremarkable. Not because they're behind, because they refuse to finance a version of themselves they hadn't earned yet. And once that lesson lands, something more dangerous becomes possible. Not a bigger lifestyle, a bigger future. Those sound like the same sentence. They're not even close. One spends today trying to impress tomorrow. The other quietly starves today, so tomorrow never has to pretend. Most people treat comfort as something you buy the moment you can afford it. The wealthy treat comfort as something their assets eventually hand them, later, and with interest. 2 friends, same unexpected $10,000 bonus. The first celebrates immediately. Nothing crazy. A nice trip, a new phone, some furniture, a few good dinners. Nothing that looks irresponsible on paper. They worked for it. They earned the reward. The second friend celebrates too, but only after one question gets asked out loud. What will this money still be doing for me in 5 years? That single sentence rewires the whole decision. The money stops being permission and starts being potential. Some goes into the portfolio. Some kills expensive debt. Some buys a skill that raises future income. A small slice, just a slice, goes toward actual enjoyment, because pleasure isn't the enemy here. It's just no longer allowed to go first. Nobody builds a house by hanging the curtains before the concrete. Nobody visits a construction site in month 1 and complains about the lack of decoration. Everyone understands the invisible work comes first. Financially, though, millions of people are decorating houses that don't have a foundation yet. The result looks like beautiful instability, an expensive lifestyle balanced on income that could vanish in one bad month, one layoff, one recession, one emergency, and the whole set collapses. Machiavelli's central argument for rulers was that security doesn't come from how a fortress looks. It comes from where it's positioned, and how well it can withstand the specific threats it's actually likely to face. A castle with tall walls in the wrong location is still a trap. Ownership is the position. Every asset quietly shrinks how dependent you are on circumstance. Every liability quietly grows it. This is why people who eventually become wealthy often look strangely patient from the outside. Patient in a way that doesn't photograph well, doesn't trend, doesn't make a good caption. Small ownership beats large consumption, not once, repeatedly. One investment won't change your life, neither will the second. But somewhere past the 5th, 10th, 20th, something shifts. Your money starts contributing alongside your effort, instead of just sitting there waiting to be spent. At first, you work for every dollar. Later, some dollars start working for you. Eventually, those dollars hire more dollars. That's the actual origin story of most fortunes. Not one leap. Thousands of unremarkable decisions that nobody was watching closely enough to notice. Which raises the next problem, because money doesn't vanish by accident. It follows attention. Most people assume financial decisions happen at the checkout. They don't. They happen hours earlier. Sometimes days, sometimes weeks. Tomorrow morning, before your feet hit the floor, you'll probably unlock your phone. Notifications, messages, ads, someone else's vacation, someone else's kitchen, someone else's life. Edited down to its best 40 seconds, without meaning to. You've just let someone else start deciding what you want. Your desires stopped being entirely yours. They're being rented. This might be the single most profitable business on the planet. Not selling objects, but selling dissatisfaction. Because a satisfied person is a terrible customer. Watch how rarely ads actually sell a product. Mostly they sell an identity, confidence, status, belonging. The object is just the bridge, which is why you can buy the expensive watch and wake up the next morning exactly as insecure as you were the day before. The transaction ended. The feeling it was supposed to fix didn't. The wealthy catch this trap earlier than most. They understand that the economy competes for your attention long before it ever competes for your money. Lose the first fight, and the second one is basically decided already. Think about your last impulse purchase. Did it start when you typed in your card number? Or did it start the 10th time you scrolled past it? The 5th recommendation. The moment you compared your life to someone else's highlight reel. By the time the money actually leaves your account, your attention left a long time ago. Machiavelli's whole political framework rests on a similar insight, that a ruler who wants to hold power has to actively manage how he's perceived, because perception drives loyalty and loyalty drives everything else. Attention, in his world, was the battlefield before the battlefield. The parallel isn't a stretch. Whoever controls what you pay attention to is quietly steering what you do next. That's why future millionaires tend to be strangely selective about what they let into their day. Not just food, information, conversations, media, influence. Every hour is doing something to tomorrow's decisions, whether you're paying attention to it or not. An hour studying how money actually works. An hour on a skill that compounds. An hour spent with the right person instead of the right feed. Those hours stack the same way money does. Distraction doesn't cost you today. It cost you the opportunity that would have shown up if you'd been paying attention when it walked past. Attention is the soil. Behavior is the harvest. Protect the soil, and the harvest changes on its own. Ignore it, and even good opportunities struggle to take root, which leads somewhere slightly uncomfortable. Your money isn't just shaped by what you buy. It's shaped by who made buying feel normal in the first place. Human beings copy each other constantly, and almost none of it is on purpose. Spend enough time around people upgrading their cars every 2 years, and yours starts to feel embarrassing for no reason you can name. Spend enough time around people obsessed with brand names, and your closet suddenly feels inadequate. Spend enough time around people talking about ownership, negotiation, and delayed gratification, and strangely, those things start to feel completely normal. Behavior spreads like weather, quietly, constantly, without an invitation. Picture 2 dinner tables. At the first, the conversation is promotions, vacations, watches, who bought what, who drives what, who looks like they made it. At the second, it's businesses, negotiations, mistakes people actually learned something from, a book that rearranged how someone thinks. Nobody at either table is handing out instructions. They don't need to. The room does the teaching, one dinner at a time. That's how identity shifts without anyone announcing it. The future millionaire usually isn't smarter than the room they left behind. They just found a better room, one where patience isn't mocked, where discipline is respected, where ownership gets more admiration than appearance does. The most dangerous rooms aren't always the obviously negative ones. Sometimes they're just expensive. And expensive expectations have a way of becoming expensive habits without you ever agreeing to it out loud. The wealthy notice something subtle here. Environment doesn't force a decision. It just makes one decision feel normal, and the alternative feels strange. And once something feels normal, you stop questioning it entirely, which leaves an uncomfortable question sitting on the table. If your financial habits have been getting more expensive every year, who taught them to? Because the answer might say more about your next decade than your current paycheck ever could. Most people don't lose the wealth-building game because they're not smart enough. They lose because they get impatient at the exact moment patience was about to start paying off. Think about how we measure progress. Lose 5 pounds, people notice. Buy a new car, people notice. Get promoted, people notice. Invest consistently for 3 quiet years. Almost nothing visible happens at all. That's the whole problem. We're wired to chase evidence we can see. Financial freedom rarely gives you that satisfaction on schedule. Plant an oak tree. Week 1, nothing. Month 1, nothing worth mentioning. Year 1, still unimpressive to anyone glancing at it. If you judged it purely by what's visible above ground, you'd assume it had failed. Underneath, the roots are doing the actual work, quietly, on a schedule that doesn't care whether you're watching. Wealth behaves the same way. The first investment doesn't feel life-changing. Neither does the first fully funded emergency account or the first disciplined year of not spending on things that don't matter, which is exactly why most people quit right there. They mistake invisible progress for no progress at all. The future millionaire doesn't make that mistake. They understand that the biggest rewards tend to spend years underground before anyone sees them break the surface. Machiavelli, writing about the fall of rulers who acted purely on short-term impulse, argued that fortune only controls about half of what happens to us. The rest depends on preparation and the discipline to act with foresight rather than panic, especially when circumstances turn against you. His word for that capacity was virtu, not luck, but the trained ability to hold a strategy steady while conditions shift underneath it. Money runs on the identical law: 2 investors. The first checks the market every hour, and every headline hijacks their mood. A dip feels like disaster, a rally feels like genius. They've stopped investing. They're just reacting on a schedule set by strangers. The second follows a system. Markets rise, markets fall. The plan doesn't move. Not because they feel nothing, because the important decisions got made before the emotions had a chance to vote. One follows feelings, the other follows principles. Over enough time, principles simply outlast panic. This shows up everywhere, not just markets. Skills, businesses, relationships, health, reputation. Everything worth having grows slowly before it grows visibly. The wealthy don't worship speed. They worship consistency, because consistency is what gives time room to multiply small actions into outcomes that look from a distance, like luck. So the question quietly changes. Not how fast can I get rich, but what habits would still make sense if nobody noticed them for 5 years? That question is dangerous in the best way. It removes the audience. All that's left is character, and character compounds. But patience by itself isn't the whole answer. Time multiplies whatever you feed it, including bad habits. Imagine waking up tomorrow and before you've made a single decision, money has already moved into an investment account. Bills are already paid. Savings already went up. Your financial life improved before your emotions were even fully awake. That should feel unfair. It's exactly why systems work. Most people run on motivation. The wealthy run on design. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this today? A system just says, already done. You don't negotiate with yourself every morning about brushing your teeth. No pros and cons list, no waiting for inspiration. It's automatic. Financial habits can become exactly the same kind of automatic, and the fewer decisions you leave to mood, the fewer chances mood gets to sabotage you. Two people, same salary. The first checks at the end of the month to see what's left over to save. Usually not much. The second saves and invests first, automatically, and lets the lifestyle adjust to whatever's left. From a distance, that looks like a small difference. 10 years in, it isn't one anymore. The wealthy figured out something most people miss. Freedom doesn't come from making 100 brilliant decisions a year. It comes from eliminating hundreds of unnecessary ones. Every automatic transfer, every recurring contribution, every rule set once and never revisited, all of it quietly protects your future from today's mood. Moods change, systems don't. This is one of the quiet reasons broke people become wealthy without anyone noticing the turn. They stop depending on willpower, which is exhausting and runs out on exactly the days you need it most, and start depending on systems, which keep working while you sleep. Machiavelli made a related point about rule itself, that the strongest leaders don't hold power through constant, personal force. They build institutions and laws stable enough to maintain order even when the ruler isn't standing in the room. Structure outlasts presence. A financial system does the same job for a single person's life. Picture every paycheck as a fresh hire. Some go toward assets, some toward debt, some toward a rainy day, some toward a new skill. None of them are allowed to sit around unemployed. Money stops being something that simply arrives. It starts reporting for work. That's a different identity entirely. Most people treat every paycheck as permission to spend. The future millionaire treats it like a manager onboarding a new hire. Everyone gets an assignment. Nobody wanders. The question quietly changes again. Not how much did I make, but how many workers did I just add to my future? Once every dollar has a job, waste becomes obvious. Impulse gets expensive. Ownership becomes the more satisfying habit. Eventually, the system gets stronger than the person who built it, which is exactly the point. Because real wealth isn't measured by how hard you can grind. It's measured by how little chaos shows up if you had to stop working for 6 months tomorrow. Sit with that for a second. If you vanished from your job for half a year, how much of your income would keep arriving without you? Whatever the answer is, it's not a verdict, it's a direction. The future millionaire asks that question long before the money exists. Not because they plan on quitting, but because they refuse to build a life with only one working leg. From here, the story stops being about spreadsheets. It becomes about who other people trust. Most people spend years trying to convince others they've made it. Future millionaires spend those same years becoming the kind of person success naturally gravitates toward. Think about the biggest opportunities you've ever heard about. A partnership, a leadership role, an investment, a life-changing introduction. Very few of them went to the highest earner in the room. Most of them went to whoever the room already trusted. Trust is one of the only assets that compounds without ever showing up on a balance sheet. Two equally talented professionals, same skills, same work ethic. One has built a reputation for staying calm under pressure, keeping their word, showing up prepared, solving problems instead of assigning blame. When deadlines get ugly, their standards don't move. The other is just as smart and just as unpredictable, brilliant some weeks, careless the next. Reliable, then not. Focused, then distracted. Who gets the confidential project? Who gets the recommendation when the big opportunity opens up? Who's the first call when someone needs a partner they can actually depend on? It was never really about talent. It was about trust. Reputation compounds the same way money does. Every promise kept is a deposit. Every excuse is a withdrawal. Every hard moment handled with discipline strengthens equity nobody can see, until somehow that invisible equity starts producing very visible results. Machiavelli argued that a prince's reputation, specifically being seen as reliable, competent and consistent rather than fickle, was one of the most durable forms of security a ruler could have, often more durable than the size of his army. Consistency in his framework wasn't a soft virtue. It was a defensive wall. Extend that logic past politics, and it holds up fine. Banks lend to predictable borrowers, investors back predictable founders, companies promote predictable leaders, customers return to predictable businesses. Reliability quietly turns into leverage, which is why future millionaires spend years protecting something you can't put a number on: their name. Eventually that name starts opening doors before they've even knocked. Money can buy advertising, it can't buy genuine trust. Status can fill a room, it can't guarantee anyone stays. Fame gets attention. Character decides who's still there after everyone else has left. Every rule so far has been pointing at the same foundation underneath it: identity. The broke person who quietly becomes a millionaire doesn't up one day, transformed by their bank balance. The transformation comes first. The money just shows up to the party late, which leaves one rule standing. And, ironically, it isn't about making more. It's about protecting what's already been built. That might sound like a strange place to end a video about money. Watch what emotion does to a financial decision though, and it stops sounding strange at all. Fear sells at the exact worst moment. Greed buys at the exact worst moment. Ego borrows money to impress people who weren't paying attention anyway. Pride refuses good advice. Anxiety turns into a shopping cart. Emotion isn't the villain here. Uncontrolled emotion is. Picture trying to build a house in the middle of a storm. Wind changing direction every few seconds. Rain sideways. Everything around you reacting to everything else. Nearly impossible. And yet that's exactly the condition millions of people are in when they make their biggest financial decisions. Overwhelmed, reactive, deciding in the middle of the storm instead of waiting it out. The wealthy delay the decision, not out of indecision, out of a simple rule. Temporary emotions don't get to rewrite permanent plans. When markets get frightening, they go back to the system. When headlines predict collapse, they go back to their principles. When everyone else starts rushing, they slow down. That's not weakness, that's control. And control compounds exactly like money does. Think about the decisions that actually changed your life for the better. How many of them happened because you reacted instantly, versus how many happened because you waited, thought it through, let the feeling pass before you acted? The patient ones tend to age a lot better. Machiavelli's most famous and most frequently misread observation was that it's safer for a ruler to be feared than loved if he can't manage to be both. But read past the line everyone quotes, and his actual point was narrower. Unpredictability is what destroys a ruler, whether it comes from being too indulgent or too cruel. What he actually prized above either fear or love was a leader who was consistent enough that people always knew what to expect from him. Panic, greed, and desperation all make a person predictable in the worst way, easy to read, easy to exploit. Calm makes you dangerous, because calm is what lets you keep thinking while everyone around you has already stopped. A peaceful mind negotiates better, learns faster, sleeps better. To notices the opportunity that panic walks straight past without seeing it. None of this means life gets easy. Markets still fall, businesses still fail. Bills still show up uninvited. People still let you down. The difference is internal. The wealthy don't wait for uncertainty to disappear. They build themselves into someone uncertainty can't run. Look at where this actually went. It started as a video about money. Somewhere along the way, the money quietly disappeared from the center of the frame, and what was left was identity, attention, patience, systems, character, trust, peace. Because wealth was never anything more than the visible aftershock of invisible habits. People see the house, they don't see the decade of restraint that paid for it. People see the portfolio. They don't see the 1,000 small purchases that quietly never happened. People see freedom. They don't see the years spent guarding attention from everything trying to rent it. The world applauds the harvest. Almost nobody notices the season spent planting. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud. The first million is rarely a math problem. It's a behavior problem, solved slowly. Long before the bank account changes, the conversations change. Long before the investments multiply, the standards do. Long before the lifestyle shifts, the identity already has. That's how two people can start with the same salary, the same education, the same opportunities, and land in completely different lives. Not because one of them found a secret, because one of them quietly became someone money could trust. Money doesn't create discipline, it reveals it. Money doesn't create wisdom, it magnifies it. Money doesn't create patience, it rewards it. The people who look like they got rich overnight almost never did. The audience just showed up late, caught the outcome, missed the years nobody was filming. The evenings spent learning instead of scrolling. The weekends spent building instead of performing. The small, unglamorous decisions that meant nothing on the day they were made, until, eventually, they meant everything. So the real question was never, can a broke person become a millionaire? History already settled that one a long time ago. The better question is the one that doesn't have a comfortable answer yet. Are you becoming the kind of person $1 million would actually be safe with? If you're fascinated by the psychology hiding underneath wealth, power, and long-term thinking, this is only the surface. Subscribe and keep pulling the thread.